right, back again, back again. This is Ed Gray Commish Radio Show, Ed Gray 1906. And if you're listening all across the world, we're the best radio show from Como to the Congo. If you are in Fort Worth, Texas, you know where Como's at. And if you're in the world, well, you should be in the world because you're listening to this radio show, unless you're on 5G. And obviously, wow, you kind of throw it out now. But, you know, you should know where the Congo's at. And this is the political season, and we are doing this show live, up close and personal, from the ballpark, Globe Life Field. Well, Globe Life Field. So this is where we're at right now. We are here right now for the last couple of shows here at this ballpark because they're moving. Fishbowl Radio Studios are moving. You didn't know that. Fishbowl Studios are moving, and I wanted to make sure that I received the best quality guests going out in style.
Yes.
Going out in style.
Thanks, Pratt.
Going out in style. So, you know, this is what we have going on. We have today presiding judge of the 282nd Judicial District Court, Judge Amber Givens. She's here right beside me, right here, you know, and, hey, we want to go ahead and send a special shout out to you.
Thank you so much, Frat. I appreciate you for having me. You know, I visit you even more than election season, though. You've helped me promote my Word of Mouth series and everything. So I'm grateful to be back.
That's true. And you know what? We've been knowing each other a long time. I knew you before you became judge and everything.
Yes, you did.
And, you know, you're in 2015, and here it is, back again.
Back again.
Back again. So tell us what's going on.
Gosh, so much is going on, Ed. There's so much work going on in the 282nd. So, you know, we've been operating under the emergency orders that the Texas Supreme Court has been issuing since March of 2020. Matter of fact, we just got the 47th emergency order that was released and will allow us to continue to be virtual due to the pandemic and the fact that we are at a red level in Dallas County. And actually, the emergency order applies to all courts. I will tell you, in the 282nd, we're the top 3 courts that gets the highest number of case assignments every month. But even despite that, we are working diligently to make sure that both the accused rights and those of the alleged victims are protected.
Doing a lot of work.
Yes, we'll be actually in trial tomorrow, actually. So that's the one thing that the emergency orders, initially prior to, I believe, maybe the last 2 or 3, you couldn't do a jury trial virtually, right? But now if both sides waive that right, you could, but we're not. We are going to be in person tomorrow picking a jury panel. I think Dallas County, we stopped trying cases for 16 months because of the pandemic.
So you're actually doing jury trials?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been doing jury trials since summer of 2021.
And you're not scared?
You know, I don't feed fear.
Okay.
I feed my faith. And so I know that God has me here for a purpose and he's going to protect me. I am so blessed to have a staff that has been diligent in this pandemic. When I tell you none of them have been out sick for COVID, because I've made sure it's been a public concern of mine for people's health that we not put people in contact with people that don't need to be in contact with each other. You know, and so the state of Texas actually purchased us Zoom accounts. Right? The Office of Court of Administration purchased our Zoom accounts for all of the Texas judges. And we had to comply with the Open Courts Act. And so we are streaming on Facebook Live to comply with the Open Courts Act.
Yeah, I've checked a lot of you judges out. You know, it's been pretty cool because half the judges not 3/4 of the judges that are down in Dallas County and probably about 25% of them in Tarrant County have actually been here right here on this show.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. You know, and it was a trip thing, though. You know, when you can see who's there, right, in the courtroom, and it has a name up, and it goes, and then the judge say, "We have Mr. Gray here," and I go, "Wow." I was trying to be anonymous, you know. Say Ed Gray's iPad on there.
Yes, however you log in.
Yeah. So, how and when is this thing gonna be over with? I mean,
who knows? You know, as long as the Texas Supreme Court gives me the authority to be virtual, I'm going to be, because I'm very concerned about my staff and the attorneys that come before me and the parties. Want to make sure that we limit people's interaction to each other. If they don't have to be in the same room with each other, then, you know, they shouldn't. We had an attorney last week on who actually had COVID, who shared it on Zoom that she had COVID, but she was well enough to appear. And so her client's case wasn't delayed because she was able to be virtual from home and not endanger the rest of us. And so I can't tell you, if I had a crystal ball, I would have never thought it would have lasted this long. In March of 2020, I was thinking, you know,
Thought it was gonna be over with?
Right, in
Yeah.
2 weeks we'll be back.
Yeah,
you know?
because everybody was doing the deal about having their beards all messed up and everything.
You couldn't go to the barber shop.
You know.
Yeah.
And then it got old, like, I need to go to the barber shop.
Or you got to pick up a new skill.
Yeah.
Because I
Oh,
picked
yeah,
up a
yeah.
new skill. I learned how to braid my hair during the pandemic.
I learned how to do mines like that, too. It was a joke, folks. You know, hey, but that's what it is, you know. But, you know, you're picking up new skills. So
Right.
the skills that you have, old skills as an attorney, tell us about yourself.
Gosh, so, you know, I like to start kind of like from the beginning about my why, right? So at a very young age, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I am one of 7 kids. And at the age of 8, my brother was incarcerated for the first time. And he had a drug problem, an addiction to crack. And, you know, instead of rehabilitation being an option for him, it wasn't. He went straight to the penitentiary, and that changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I decided then not to run from the system that had impacted my life, but instead to be a part of the system and actually try to change it and make sure that people get a fair shot. And so that's why I became interested in being, you know, in the criminal justice system. But more so becoming a prosecutor was really the motivation of my brother. He told me that's where all the power is. That's where the discretion is. And so people with different life experiences like mine needed to be there. And so that's how I became a prosecutor. And then never thought I would leave the DA's office, actually. Felt like I wore a cape, right? The Supreme Court has only spoken to prosecutors to say that your job is to do justice. And so actually found myself handling a white-collar crime caseload, and the cases weren't getting set for 4 or 5 years. And I decided, you know, to change that because Dallas was leading the way in criminal justice reform. So if you were actually innocent and your case was sitting for 4 or 5 years, what if a witness died or relocated? And so I ran for office, and I promised God that I would sit on this bench in a way that would make him proud, and do things that, you know, weren't necessarily easy, but were right. And not to go along just to get along. And so that is what I've done. I believe public service is a concept, but then there are deeds that truly prove that you are committed to serving the community. And that's what I've done for the last 7 years.
7 years.
7 years. Can you believe that?
7 years. That's a long time. Well, who would have thought?
I know. God is good.
Yeah, God is
He keeps
good.
making a way.
All the time, all the time. And you also have a lot of civic, well, not civic duty, it's your responsibilities that you pick up to keep us rooted in the community.
Yes.
Could you tell us what you do on that?
Yeah. So, you know, when you run for office, people always ask you, what program are you going to implement?
Right.
And for me, I knew what was coming through, you know, the legislature. In 2015, I knew that they were going to change the way we invited people to participate in the grand jury process. And if you never paid attention to the grand jury before, Mike Brown's murder in St. Louis, Missouri, made people pay attention to it. Like, what is the secret process? And so I knew that I was going to make sure that I had a good cross-section of people serving on my grand jury, because those are the people that decide who get charged, you know, if there's probable cause to support a charge, and it's truly key. And when you go downstairs in Dallas and look at the photos of grand jurors, you see the same people repeated over and over that have served, or you see a serious lack of diversity, which means you have a lack of diverse thought as well. And so I knew I would make sure I had a good cross-section of people on my grand juries. But more than that, I wanted to create a program, but not for the sake of creating one. So for 6 months, I sat back and watched, like, what's needed. And I realized that people on felony probation were failing, and it wasn't because they were begging to fail. It was because they either didn't feel like they deserved access to resources, or they felt so far removed from the community that, you know, they didn't think they mattered, right? And so I created a 10-month, started off as a 6-month. I created a 10-month now supplemental felony probation program. And, you know, I pair them with people from the community. And I believe in bridging the gap between the community and the courthouse, right? And so that's one of the ways I've done that. Pair them with mentors, bankers, engineers, teachers, lawyers, whomever. And we walk them through these concepts that all of us take for granted. On felony probation, when somebody tells you, go get a job, we forget that the things that we see as little hurdles can be overwhelming to someone who has a background, right? And so we walk them through with DPS how to get their license reinstated, the Social Security Administration about how to get their copy of their card, walk them through with the clerk's office, how do you get those vital documents, to get, your license and things like that, all the way to working with Toastmasters to teach them how to publicly speak and network. I have someone that used to head up the SMU career department who for free offers her services to help them write their resumes and cover letters. And then beyond that, bankers come in. A lot of the individuals that participate in my program, they have very little family support, didn't graduate from high school, and have drug addiction issues. And I picked those people because those are the people that typically society kind of marginalizes, right? And so in their communities, they have a lot of check cashing places as opposed to banks. So the bankers come in, teach them how to set up a bank account and how to budget even. And Texas A&M has a dental program as well. A lot of them don't have insurance, and their kids can't get their teeth cleaned. So they come in, give them the information about their dental program. They get to go get their teeth cleaned. They get to educate their kids about the importance of taking care of their teeth, their hygiene. And so it really is serving the whole person. At the end of that program, they're released from probation, and if they qualify, they get judicial clemency, which is akin to a pardon from the governor.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just one of them.
Just one. Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about your community involvement and some of the honors and awards you got.
Thank you.
Received, right?
Yes.
And we'll be right back. Cool Kenneth, it's National DJ Day today. And
yes,
it's
National
always
DJ Day.
National DJ Day with Cool Kenneth. I never, ever, 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 ever have to, ask him about how the camera angles is rolling and everything, or what music to play, because he don't play no whack music. No, everybody else they come up with that whack music. I be like, what are you doing? You're killing me here.
Well, you can see him on camera now, the smile that he's got with the compliments.
All right. So we'll be right back. Okay.
Hi, my name is Gail Todd with Townview Realtors. If you find yourself in the market to buy, sell, lease, or maybe you want to be a part of this hot real estate market by investing, just give my team of professionals and I a call at 214-675-9572. Again, that's 214-675-9572. Or you can email me at gtodd88@yahoo.com. With me, it's all about you.
Who was that masked man? You mean you don't know? That was no masked man. That was the commish. Saturdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network. put the music back on, Cool Kim. Man, now go ahead. I mean, because, you know, they pay to have that stuff there. Go ahead. Turn it up a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Deep down inside,
now I want everybody
like I need
to
you,
know who this is, man. Cool Kim, you have who it is here?
I need you to see.
Kenya Crawford, Aeon's band, okay?
Okay.
Local
I
artists.
need to hear.
Here's my time to go ahead and slam
Baby,
Facebook again.
I love
Okay, I
Oh,
want
you
to
coming
get
over?
to Facebook. I want to make sure that it's out of the audience comes correct. You know, but you know, Facebook has always been, you know, like, you know, jacking me up about that by saying, hey, do you have the copyrights? We have that. We have that. So turn it up again.
All right. Said, let it
Yeah,
go.
let it
Sometimes
play.
the go
So, you know, not only that,
can get a little tough.
you go ahead and follow me on YouTube. Yeah, it's Ed Gray
And there'll be
Radio.
too
And
many
you can follow her
times
and
that
put that in there as well.
the
You'll
road's
see
gonna
me in the
get real
video.
rough, but
I'm in the
You were in the
video.
video?
All in the video.
Okay. All right, with
But
your
I
cameo.
wasn't dancing. But I was in the video, so but you know, but that's what it is. So you can fade us on out. Say you love me. All right, so I'm quite familiar with that. You know, they put me in the video and everything. I was in that video, and I know brother-in-law's off screen. He's going like, "What? I don't even know this."
He's not.
He-
Yeah.
He's greatly concerned, as you can see. But you know what I'm greatly concerned about is criminal justice reform. Criminal justice reform, you know, this is the what we're going through right now is Reconstruction era judgments, if you will. So all of this whole system goes back. Slavery by another name, you know, mass incarceration and new Jim Crow. You know, this is what all this is about. And this is the reason why I've campaigned, had people come on the show and just hit them with it. Criminal justice reform, because, you know, I'm old school. Like, you know, I learned about criminal justice reform from that great philosopher, Richard Pryor, who once said, when you go down to the courtroom, you'll see justice. You'll see just us. So that's what we're talking about. So talk to me. What can we do about criminal justice reform?
Well, I think it's more than the concept, right? We talk about criminal justice reform, but what does it really look like? And I'd submit to you that it looks like my empowerment program, right? It looks like not only saying that there are two purposes for the adult criminal justice system, rehabilitation or punishment, it really is truly nurturing that aspect of rehabilitation, right? And it is prevention even. Right, so I, alongside 3 colleagues, created a youth-based crime prevention program, and it's because we hope to never see these young people in front of us ever. And that's the Pipeline to Possibilities program. The idea is to disrupt the pipeline, right? Because I know, having served at AmeriCorps, that they use 3rd grade reading scores to determine how many prison beds we need.
Wait a minute.
Right? Third grade.
Third grade.
And I did have a 4th grade student who literally took his chair and put it in the corner and colored. And I went to visit with his 3rd grade teacher, and I said, well, why does he do that every day? She said, girl, he's probably going to prison, girl, XYZ. And I said,
That was it?
I mean, and I had just graduated from Tuskegee. There was nothing you could have told me, right, that I could not do in the world.
Yeah, because you graduated from Tuskegee.
Exactly, the great Tuskegee, Mother Tuskegee. And so I'm giving back of my time. I'm making $1.10 an hour in AmeriCorps at the time. And I'm distraught that we have already identified a young child who people are thinking is going to prison. So the concept is to disrupt the pipeline from schools to prison, right? And create pipeline of possibilities. Let them know that they too can be a part of the system in a positive way. They don't have to be subject to the system. So what we did is identified schools that have the highest rates of incarceration in Dallas, right? And so we go in and educate the kids about the criminal justice system, make it fun. On one of our exit interviews, a young lady said, you know, seeing you all makes me believe that I can do it too. You know, because a lot of times for our kids, they have to see it to believe it, right? And so the idea that you don't have to be the one in shackles, right? You can actually be a part of the change in the system. And so, you know, I think it looks like all of us taking a step back and saying, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, what can I do to change my corner of this world? And sometimes that looks like you getting a jury summons and actually showing up. getting a grand jury summons and actually showing up. Because especially in Dallas, we used to have a Sparling manual that we used from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it literally instructed prosecutors then on how to get rid of people of color on jury panels.
Wasn't that written by Henry Wade?
I believe
can't
it was
say
under
that,
his
right?
under his administration, I believe.
I said that.
But
folks. She didn't say it. I said it.
But it literally instructed prosecutors on how to get rid of people of color, certain religious beliefs, and educated women, right? And so for us to know that in Dallas, and I think a lot of people don't know that. So when you get a jury summons, it's like an honor, right? So that's what reform looks like, showing up and being a part of the process. Because I think too often people think that if they don't have a family member that's charged, that they don't have anything to do with the system. But that's not true.
Okay. All right, now, folks, and I always do this because, it's like, the movie Friday, where it says, you're always bringing up old stuff. That's what historians do, and I have a master's degree in history, so I'm going to bring up some old stuff. Okay, she can't say it. I understand. I'm not a judge. I'm not an attorney. I went to school with lots of them, went to Law Magnet High School. I named Ingrid Warren, Judge Ingrid Warren, Judge Elder Mullen. We all went to school with each other, I was most likely to succeed, but I decided to do something else, decided to become a radio DJ.
You got all the jokes today.
That's what I do. That's what I do. But back again to the history thing. There was a manual that was set up that excluded black folk from serving on juries in Dallas County, and it's still in effect. And this is a recent occurrence that we started having all of the judges in Dallas County that are black and female. And I think it's the spirit of Jane Elkins. And who's Jane Elkins? That was a woman that was a bondswoman, a slave, that was killed and murdered and hung downtown by the judicial system. But we have now more judges in Dallas County that look like Jane Elkins did, black women. So that's what's so important here, criminal justice reform, judicial reform, American reform. We got to reform. Not be in reform school, we just got to reform. All right. So now, I've been reading the newspapers, and I watch stuff on TV occasionally. Mm-hmm. Since COVID, I haven't been on Inside Texas Politics lately, so I watch less of it now, obviously. But anyway, I saw you on TV. What was that about?
Ed, I am so glad that you're staying informed and staying tuned in. And for those of you all that have been looking at the news lately, there are some false narratives going around about me. I'll tell you this, with the word of mouth, I stay up to the courthouse till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night with my probationers. And it means that I work, right? I give more than what you all ask of me, because what you ask of me is from 8 to 4:30, right? And it's a false narrative, and if you need to hear it from me, let me say it straight to you, both of the cameras. It's a false narrative created to suppress the will of the people, right? Because what we're doing at the courthouse is changing the foundation of the courthouse. So I most certainly was on the phone, and I'll say it to this other camera. I most certainly was on the phone. That is a false narrative, and I will not fold under misinformation, okay? Because what I'm tasked with and what I promised God, we are living in a space where we have Christopher Scotts and Richard Miles walking around. And the same people that prosecuted them are down at that courthouse. They're just in different roles. So what does that tell me? It's great that we buy their books. It's great that we show up at their nonprofit organization galas and things like that. But until we change and shake the foundation of the system that convicted them, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves. And so I decided I am not going to sit by and be silent when I see things. One of the most recent things I've done is create an anti-discrimination policy. In 2020, after George Floyd's murder that we all watched in horror, we saw attorneys that are on what we call the appointment wheel. We saw them take to Facebook and call black people animals and subhuman. Now, these are the same attorneys tasked with, appointing people and representing, representing people inside the court system that can't afford to pay for their own attorneys. Right? And so how is that fair? Because the Constitution says if you can't pay for your own attorney, you don't get to pick your own attorney. Right? And so I came up with the first anti-discrimination policy in the country that says just because you can't afford your own attorney doesn't mean you're not entitled to one that believes all people deserve a criminal defense. And so it was finally passed. It is, like I said, the first in the country. And it's necessary. And I think what the pandemic and what 2020 did for us, it forced us to recognize things that are happening in society that we can't hide from. And so I'm down here to do the work. And if my work makes people uncomfortable because I'm addressing things that need to be addressed, I think that all people, no matter what you look like, where you come from, how much you can afford to pay for an attorney, you deserve equity and access to justice.
Okay. Now, you said all that, and I'm glad you said that. But it seems like, and I can't recall which time it was, you were on, they had you on the news before, and it was like conversations about how she looks.
Oh, my hair. Yeah, that
I wasn't gonna say your hair because you know I've been black a long time, and I know not to say nothing
about
like that.
A woman's hair.
No,
You know
no,
what?
Lord, you ain't getting me.
You know, it's because I have the
Right, Rev?
audacity. I have the audacity to show up as my authentic self. And, you know, I graduated from Tuskegee University, and I graduated from Syracuse University College of Law, and I've passed the bar in New York and Texas, two of the hardest bar exams you can take in the country. And so, you know, it wasn't something I thought about at the barbershop, like, oh my gosh, does that diminish my degree? Does that impact my intelligence? It wasn't something that like I thought about because I've been on the bench for 7 years. I've presided over, you know, hundreds of cases, and I have never been reversed by a higher court in Texas. Okay? And what that says is your hair does not impact your intelligence. I should be able to come to work as myself without feeling like your judgment is going to override, you know, my ability to do my job, because it doesn't. I wear makeup every day. It's something that I like. I shave my hair, and, you know, sometimes people think it's just one side. It's all the way around, right? I do that because that's my prerogative. And I still show up for the people of Dallas just as myself. And I think what I found through that story is whatever people try to use for bad, God is going to use it for good. You know, I had so many young women from when I say all over the world, contact me and tell me that the strength that I have to show up gave them strength to know that, you know what, the bullying that they're experiencing at school, you know, like that everybody experiences that and they're not isolated, but I gave them the strength to show up to school the next day. I even had an autistic young woman from Florida send me, she beads for therapy. Her mom said that she was in tears after watching the new series with me and the collection of young women, and she wanted to send me a gift. So she sent me a bracelet and earrings, and the bracelet had a scripture on it, and it said, I forget the exact scripture, but the verse essentially says, to those that believe, right? To those that believe, essentially God is going to cover you. And so I decided to use it for good. And I'll tell you, even the most recent instance that you brought up about the news, it's actually just made me that much more committed to making the change, because I see the change that's necessary in this criminal justice system. And it's actually given me a whole new perspective on what the presumption of innocence looks like. And so it's just given me, you know, sometimes the fire will intensify your desire. And I'm going to tell you that that's what this most recent instance has done for me.
You know, it's amazing, and I want people that are listening in, if you're listening in, it's Ed Gray 1906 on Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow follow me there as well. And I know you have Twitter and Instagram.
I do. So it's at Judge Amber Givens on Instagram. It's Judge Amber Givens on Facebook. And if you actually want to watch me virtually every day for court, it's just Amber Givens. You don't have to be my friend on Facebook to watch it. It's public because I believe in transparency. And there's, I believe that everybody should be able to tune in. And there's such a great deal of value that that I add to the fact that the courts are even more accessible now during the pandemic because people were not taking off of work to watch, court and to come down to the courthouse. But now they can just see it. And then back to the handles. On Twitter, it's Judge Amber.
All right. It's ironic. We were talking about her. Give me a couple of minutes to talk about her. This is obviously something in my household I don't talk quite a bit about because I have none. But, I said her and Center of Attraction, her gallery just joined right in on it was just right there on it, your pipeline of possibilities, is really drawing a lot of attention. But this her has drawn a lot of attention as well. And I want to say something about this, and this is something about in America that always we do this with black women. We talk about black women, how their hair looks, and India Ari once had a great song about her hair and everything. So, we're talking about that, but, we're talking about whether or not the judge, her hair defines her or her judicial temperament. But you know what? She's not the only person down at the courthouse that has different hairstyles. I'm not going to mention the judge's name. She knows who I'm talking about. But I'm just saying it was always when it's directed to black women that you end up having this. If a white judge has this, which clearly we've had this because, hey, check it out. No one says anything about it. No one said a thing about that. And I know it, and you should know it. But it's always when it applies to black women that there's a different standard. We need to be collective in our equity, and we're never that. It's always we have to be totally different on that.
It's funny because when I first ran, Ed, too, we had this conversation before. When I first ran, I rocked a coily afro, tight. And I was told that I had to relax my hair to run for office because voters would find my hair offensive. And I thought, wow, is that real? Like, I refused to relax my hair because for my own health reasons, I needed to be natural, and I'm still natural. And, it wasn't something that I was willing to do because I was running for purpose, right? So my purpose was not impacted by the fact that I had a coily afro. And so we just have to be, you have to be comfortable with who you are and show up as yourself with purpose.
The purpose that you're sharing now, what you're doing in our community, what do you see us going forward in the future?
2020, like I said, put us in a situation where we were watching it on TV happen. And I think it energized so many people to say, no longer will I sit by and just, accept the law for what it is. I'm going to start going to my state capitol. I'm going to start contacting my local representative, and I'm going to, propose legislation. I am going to vote. And, now we actually just had an event the other day, Our Lives Depend on It, voting rights rally. And it's like, people are understanding now as you watch our last legislative session, if your vote didn't matter, why would there be so many bills attacked or to attack like extending voting, hours or allowing people to vote on Sundays so that people don't have to take off of work? Like, if it wasn't important, why would they be so strong or so strongly trying to attack it? So I think all those things came through in 2020, and I think people are showing up in a different way because they understand that they do matter.
They really do matter. One of the companion radio shows I have here is Legal Standpoint with Michael Todd. Sister, could you give me that water right there? I want to do this. Thank you. This right here could get you put to jail. Just what you just did. Give me some water. Can have you put to jail in the state of Texas, or you can get fined for it or something. Because right now, if I was to give you this while you were standing in line to vote, That's against the law. That's what we're encountering right now, all across America, and that's what I was talking about. America needs to be reformed as well, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing on this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think voting has to be personal to us. I think we've taken it for granted for too long. And, you know, it's personal for me because being a student at Tuskegee, I believe it was my sophomore year, the local NAACP chapter president, Miss Flowers, I will never forget her.
Oh, you know her whole name and everything.
Oh, because she changed my life.
How she changed your life?
She changed my life because she rolled up on us in poli-sci class.
Oh, you rolled up.
She
Okay.
rolled up on us
I like where
in
you-
a bus.
You talking
And-
real? Yeah, you said rolled up.
Yeah, and you know the funny thing is, Marilyn Mosby, the head state attorney in Baltimore, was in the same class. We both graduated from Tuskegee together in 2002, both poli-sci majors. Tuskegee really fed you as a student, your mind, your body, your spirit. So Miss Flowers changed my life because she came in and she asked our professor, "What are you teaching about today?" And he was like, voting rights. She said, "Perfect. We appreciate the theory, but we need you to put these students on the bus so we can do some action." And so this is before cell phones. We were able to call our parents. And, I told my mom, I said, they want us to go to Selma to help with this historical election. She said, "Just don't go to jail, baby, in Selma, Alabama. That's all I ask." And I said, I'm going to try to guarantee that I get back on the bus, Mama. So we get on the bus, and Miss Flowers is preparing us, like, what's happening in Selma, giving us the history, right? So Smitherman was still in office in Selma, Alabama. This is the man who called Dr. Martin Luther King, Dr.
Still
Martin
in
Luther
office.
Coon. He was still in office in 2000. And Joe Perkins Jr. was running against some black man, and they were blocking polling locations
In Selma,
in Selma, Alabama.
same place where they beat people on top of the head.
They were blocking. People were unable to get to the polling sites. And when I tell you, she said, it's going to be peaceful, but we are going to escort people from their cars. We are going to transport people from their homes. And so because crazy things were happening that day. So, crazy things are happening that day about people being able to access public transportation and things like that. So when I tell you we got there and there were men standing in front of the polling locations with leashes of dogs, what is the significance of that in Selma, Alabama, right? Why would you have someone standing with leashes in front of a polling location? And so there were older black women who just physically could not walk past them. And there was one I'll never
This
forget.
is in Selma.
This is in Selma, Alabama. I will never forget that we could not get her to vote. Like, we told her, "We'll surround you. We'll walk and surround you." Now, we escorted over 300 people that day to the polling locations, and ultimately Perkins won. He defeated Smitherman, and we quickly got back on that bus and headed back to Tuskegee because people were not happy, right? That's why voting is personal to me, and I think we all need to understand and appreciate. Talk to our elders who, couldn't vote when they first turned 18. Like, why is it important for us to get up and make sure that we go and vote? It has to be personal to us.
And it's intensely personal because you went to school at Tuskegee, and you and I have shared my great affection for Tuskegee as well. Tuskegee University, right around the corner from Tuskegee. I've never been to a Piggly Wiggly in about 20-some years until I went to Tuskegee.
Yes, one of our two grocery stores.
Right there at it. And Martin Luther King's attorney was the one who was the attorney for the Tuskegee experiment, and that's Brother Gray. And you have all of these people that no relation. You have all of these people that have done things and they're still doing these things. The Historical Black College University. This is what this is really about, and that grounds you that way.
It really does. That's why I did AmeriCorps after undergrad, because at Tuskegee they teach us your success is not your own. You owe so many people your success, and you have to give back. And so that's why for a year I got paid $1.10 to go back to my hometown in St. Louis and give back to an inner city school that actually was down the street from where I grew up. And, gosh, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it's more, they nurture you as a person, Like, I still talk to some of my professors. Like, I'm still in contact with them because I just respect them so much and the work that they did to prepare us for the world.
Yeah, I talked to mine too. One of them is one of your colleagues too. Judge Eric Moye was one of my professors in school at SMU. So he was adjunct professor at that time. If you ever been to Judge Moye's court, that's the same way it was when you were an undergrad in his classroom too. So, this whole element of you running again for re-election and what you've had to overcome, and also St. Louis as well. That's the hometown Michael Brown.
Yes, I was a part of the desegregation program, and I graduated from high school in 1998. And it's crazy because it wasn't until I got to Syracuse, I would say, I was part of the deseg program, because we shortened it, right? The deseg program. They were like, desegregation? And you graduated when? And it's like, you don't think about it, but, our communities didn't, our schools just didn't have the same, the same resources. And so it was necessary to be bused to a different community. And it's something that, all of it has changed my life. All of it has impacted, and, that's why I am who I am today.
Okay. All right. I think this is a time for a good closing. I'm just somewhat familiar with closings, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take it off of me and go ahead and put the camera angle straight up on Judge Amber Givens and let her give her closing. Tell us why. Why? 3 times. Why should we elect you?
Yes, so you should re-elect me because it's not about words for me, it's about deeds. And for the last 7 years, I have shown you my commitment. It's easy for someone to say what they will do, but when they've had an opportunity for 7, 8 years themselves and they never did, then you know their true heart. And so for me, it's been about the fact that I've created a program to reduce recidivism in Dallas County, Texas. Graduated over 200 people in that program. For me, it's about the fact that I've created an education program to demystify the criminal justice system, because I believe that knowledge is power. I did my most recent one this week about people's rights being restored once they've been incarcerated. It's about the fact that I have bridged the gap between the community and the courthouse, because it's so key, and for too long there's been that great divide. Also, because of Pipeline to Possibilities program, creating a youth-based crime prevention program shows my commitment, not just saying I'm a Democrat, but actually exercising those values, believing in social responsibility and community. And then, moreover, the 2 policies that I created. As a judge, I cannot legislate from the bench, but what I can do is create policy to make sure that justice is equal and fair to all the people that come before me. And I've done that. I've shown you that. I've given you a 7-year track record of being an individual that doesn't tolerate people sitting in jail without court settings, right? That doesn't tolerate, attorneys not going down to the police department to view evidence before a trial, because I know how important that is, because I understand and appreciate that sometimes things don't get turned over. And, I know my job as a judge is to also be that referee, to make sure that things are going right in trials and pre-trials, and calling for status conferences to make sure that people aren't just sitting in jail, that work is actually being done on the cases. And so I'm asking for your vote and your support, because I have shown you my commitment. I'm not just saying it, I have shown you. Sometimes you only see politicians when they're asking for something. You see me, I've been in the streets since day one, and obviously during the pandemic there have been restrictions, but my heart and my soul is in serving you, and I am a true public servant, so I'm asking for your continued support. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Cool, Kenneth, put it on me for a second so I can talk to Facebook Live and talk to the people that are listening now on Viz TV, where you can catch this on Viz TV, the replay. If you have Roku, go ahead and get it. You'll be able to see us on a big screen right there in your living room. As we get ready to sunset the Commish Radio Show, as it goes to the sunset of the Globe Life Park, it's now Choctaw Stadium, we're moving the studios, but we have some exciting interviews that are coming up. Glad that you came here, Judge.
Thank you.
You know, we have some interviews coming up with Philip Kingston, who's running for Dallas. He's running for county commissioner in Dallas, and also we have Jane Hamilton, who's running for Congress. She'll be here in these studios as well, and John Warren, our district clerk in Dallas County, will be here. We're closing out, well, practically every day, but you know what? We'll be back this Saturday, Commish Radio Show. We're almost out of time and town. We'll see you guys back. Play some music, and we're out of here. How you doing? This is Ed Gray of the Commish Radio Show. Stay tuned and tune in and be up to speed on everything in social justice, human rights, and politics on the Commish Radio Show, airing every Saturday, 5 p.m. on the Fishbowl Radio Network.
Jump in.